Practical pointers here. Think variety. The wider the range of plant foods in the diet, the greater variety and content of phytochemicals and antioxidants. Some people say eat at least 30 different plant foods a week. I think I eat 30 different plant foods in 1 or 2 meals each day. So I think this is not a high bar. We want to think color. The richest sources of phytochemicals are often the most colorful. We want to pick maybe purple instead of white onions, dark instead of light greens, black instead of brown rice, red or black legumes instead of white more often. We want to eat more raw foods because raw foods contain enzymes that help to convert phytochemicals into their bioactive metabolites or their active forms. For example, cruciferous vegetables contain myrosinase that helps convert glucosinolates into isothiocyanates like sulforaphane. Allium vegetables help convert allicin to the more active form allicin, and all of these can be of benefit. We want to start sprouting because when you eat sprouted foods, when you sprout a food, that little tiny plant needs to be protective. So the phytochemical army that is poised to protect this little plant multiplies often by 5 to 50 times. We want to pile on the herbs and spices because these are also very concentrated sources of antioxidants, especially turmeric. Drink antioxidant-rich teas as well. Number 9 is to minimize dietary contaminants. And the worst offenders are environmental contaminants, the byproducts of high temperature cooking, and the byproducts of high temperature cooking. And environmental contaminants, we're talking about things like pesticides in conventional produce, heavy metals like mercury in fish and seafood, arsenic in rice, chicken, fish, and seaweed, persistent organic pollutants like PCBs and DDT and dioxins in fish, meat, and dairy products, and microplastics in seafood, salt, bottled water, honey, sugar, beer, chicken nuggets, rice, meat, milk, fruit, root vegetables, all sorts of foods can contain microplastics. And the damage done, these things can increase oxidative stress, fuel inflammation, disrupt hormones, damage vital organs, including beta cells, damage DNA in the central nervous system. And the practical pointers here: eat lower on the food chain, more plants, fewer animal products, choose organic whenever you can, and vary your grains. Inorganic arsenic can increase the risk of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. We want to eat a wide variety of grains. And if you eat rice, select it carefully. Certain areas like California tends to have less arsenic than in some of the deep south where the cotton fields used to be. You want to parboil it for 5 minutes in a large amount of water and then drain it, and then you can cook it as usual. Or you can cook it in 6 to 10 times more water than rice and then just drain it, but you will get rid of more nutrients doing it that way. We want to reduce our exposure to microplastics, and we want to avoid single-use plastic bottles and cutting boards and plastic utensils and so forth. Don't microwave in plastic. Reduce our intake of ultra-processed foods, which tend to have more microplastics, and limit our intake of seafood and salt, including Himalayan pink sea salt, black salt, and regular sea salt, and all the other foods mentioned previously. And then moving on to products of high temperature cooking, like heterocyclic amines, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and advanced glycation end products. We know that there's a study looking at red meat cooking methods. Over 59,000 women with red meat intake at least twice a week versus less than once a month. Type 2 diabetes risk was increased by 29% with broiling, 23% with barbecuing, and 11% for roasting. And high temperature open flame cooking methods for red meats, especially broiling and barbecuing, can further increase diabetes risk among red meat eaters. Heterocyclic amines are known carcinogens, but they're also associated with risk of type 2 diabetes. They form in meat, poultry, fish, and eggs when they're cooked at high temperatures, and they're not formed in plant foods at all. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons are known mutagens. They're linked to lung, skin, and genital urinary cancers. They're positively associated with type 2 diabetes, and they're present in all charred foods, whether they're plant or animal. Advanced glycation end products are associated with prediabetes, diabetes, and complications of diabetes, and they contribute to insulin resistance. And the most concentrated sources are broiled or grilled processed meats, red meats, poultry or fish, other grilled or broiled foods, dark roasted nuts and seeds. Practical pointers here: avoid charred or blackened foods, especially meat, poultry, or fish. Avoid fried foods, and use moist cooking methods more often, like steaming, stewing, boiling water, sauteing. They produce fewer products of oxidation. And finally, number 10, ensure micronutrient needs are met. People with diabetes are at increased risk for micronutrient deficiency. So choosing nutrient-dense foods helps to ensure adequate nutrients when calories are restricted. The main micronutrients of concern are vitamin B12, vitamin D, potassium, magnesium, chromium, and the antioxidant nutrients like provitamin A, carotenoids, vitamin C, and vitamin E. And people who are eating varied whole food plant-based diets generally consume plenty of these nutrients, with the exceptions of B12 and vitamin D. So vitamin B12 sources unless they're fortified, and metformin reduces B12 absorption. So this is significant for people with diabetes. So we want to aim for at least 1,000 micrograms of B12 2 or 3 times a week. But for those who are 65 years of age or more, or who are on metformin, what is generally recommended is 500 to 1,000 micrograms per day. Vitamin D, most people don't get enough vitamin D from sunshine, and plant-based diets offer fewer food sources of vitamin D. So we would recommend 1,000 to 2,000 IUs a day or more as directed by your healthcare provider, depending on your status. So in summary, what to eat. This is not a diet of deprivation. This is a diet of really delicious, filling, satisfying, whole plant foods. We want to aim for at least 9 or more servings of non-starchy vegetables and fruits a day. And a serving is basically a cup of leafy greens or half a cup of raw or cooked fruits or vegetables. We want to go for variety and color. We want to make dark greens a daily staple. We want to include berries as our premier fruit choice. For legumes, 3 or more servings per day. And this, includes a half a cup of beans, lentils, split peas, tofu, or tempeh, or 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. We want at least one of these servings as whole legumes, beans, or lentils. We want to feature legume-based foods at every single meal, and that is not a difficult thing to do. It can be soy milk at breakfast. It can be a lentil or pea soup at lunch, or hummus, for example. And then whole grains and starchy vegetables, generally 2 to 5 servings a day, depending on your energy needs. So you'll go to the lower end if you require fewer calories, and a serving is a half cup. We want to keep grains mostly intact. We want to select colorful starchy vegetables prepared without added fat. And we want to include 1 or more servings of nuts or seeds a day. And we want to, with the nuts and seeds, go for variety and omega-3s. So for omega-3s, chia, flax, and hemp seeds, walnuts. And then you can see different nuts and seeds provide different nutrients. We won't go into detail because my time is running out. And nuts and seeds, you want to keep portions moderate because they contain about 600 to 800 calories per cup. So you're wanting to sprinkle them on food more than eating them by the cupful. Use herbs and spices generously. Incorporate them at every meal, expand variety, add ethnic options. And again, herbs and spices, many have been found to have benefits for people with type 2 diabetes. So our take-home message is you have the power to reclaim your health. You are the CEO of your body. You decide what you put in your mouth. You decide how you'll move your feet. Every time you eat or drink, you either fight type 2 diabetes or feed type 2 diabetes. Whole food plant-based diets are highly effective tools in the treatment of type 2 diabetes. And these are 2 of my latest books on diabetes. And I will say thank you for listening, and I will stop my share so I can take questions.
Thank you so much, Brenda, for all of that information. That was
Oh,
really,
you're so very welcome. It's my
no,
privilege.
you're so thorough. So it's really, it's amazing to learn all that information. So
Thank you.
we have about 19 or so minutes left. So why don't we go ahead and hop into the question? So actually, I just want to make sure I heard something correctly in one of the things you said. So, I think a lot of people are familiar with the issue with brown rice and arsenic. So you're saying that by parboiling it for 5 minutes, dumping out the water, rinsing it, and then finishing boiling it, that actually pulls out most of the arsenic. So it's
Probably about 80% is what they've found. And so, we used to say boil it in 6 to 10 times more water than rice. But what we found is that actually reduces nutrients pretty significantly. So by just boiling it in the water for 5 minutes in the large amount of water, draining it, and then doing the 2 parts water to 1 part rice as you normally would, you're getting rid of the arsenic, but you're preserving the nutrients.